Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol, I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetized this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Don and Ellie.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared. Welcome, horror fans. It is not Wednesday, it is Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. That means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast. The only podcast where if your skin doesn't crawl, it's on too tight. I don't know where I find these things. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here for our live show on YouTube. So you too can laugh and scream with us, flex your horror knowledge in the live chat, and maybe even win some trivia prizes. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history, April 3rd through April 9th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm JL, and we're going to do a little bit of a different show tonight because it's just me tonight. It is just me. You know, before we dive in, it has been an interesting week. It's been a very interesting week. So I apologize first and foremost. I have to apologize to everybody. The show got delayed from yesterday because we ran into a bit of an issue. There's a bit of an emergency that we had that came up that kind of precluded the show going live. And one thing I can say after dealing with that and just the craziness, I am blown away that we've been able to make it over 2.5 seasons. We're over the halfway mark of season 2, and we have not run into a major clusterfuck like we ran into yesterday. Sometimes, things happen, life gets in the way, and these are the things that just happen. Like you try to prepare as much as you can, you try to tamp down the risk, try to mitigate, all the little factors, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And, that's why we had to push the show to today, because very much in that kind of actor mentality, that performer mentality, the show must go on. And sometimes you got to do the show alone. So the guys are okay. Everyone is all right. Angela's okay. So everyone behind the scenes is all right. There was just a lot of things that kind of snowballed all at once. And, things just kind of like got out of whack. We're going to sort it all out after the fact, but here we are now. And or here I am now, so to carry through this episode. So this is the first episode of Week in Horror that I'll be running solo, and we'll be back on track next week. But I will do my best to get through this, because we have a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. I was hoping that the other guys would be here to get their opinions on, but I have the lovely live chat here. The live chat is here, and we will hear from them. So there's going to be a lot of interactions between me and y'all as we kind of like work through all the stuff that we want to talk about. So let's see who we've got. Who is here with us? First and foremost, let's make sure we get it up on the screen. Our amazing patrons who help to make this show possible. There's all your names down there in the banner. So I appreciate y'all being here. I really, really do. We all do. All of us. Me, Eugene, Alex, Johnny O, Aaron, Angela. Y'all help make the show possible, and we love you for it. So there you are, our big, giant thank you to you. So first and foremost, I see NA is in the house. Good to see NA. He says hi. NA is one of our amazing patrons, one of our oldest patrons. So it's good to see you, NA. Thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it. And I see, one sec, I'm getting a little bit of a slow, which is weird. Oh, that was strange. Okay. Tony Regina, apparently I also like, this was really, really crazy. Right before I went live, like we're talking like 5 minutes before I went live, the internet went down. Now, we're having some crazy high winds up here in Oklahoma because the wind comes sweeping up off the plains, and the internet just dropped. And then it was back up fairly quickly, but I was panicking a little bit because the countdown was ticking, and I was like, I lost. And then everything I have added into the StreamYard deal, everything I had queued up, it was all gone. I had to reload everything, get everything set back the way it was. It was just it was crazy. So this has just been one of those weeks. So. But going back to it, good to see NANA. Thank you so much for being here. Tony Regime as well. Good to see you, Tony Regime. Travis Brown, another one of our amazing patrons. Our most recent patron. Thank you so much, Travis Brown. Good to see you. Angel Rivera as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it. Oh, I lost the banner. There we go. Dang. Crazy. And I see Raven Darkstar's in the house. Hello, hello. Good to see you, Raven Darkstar. Thank you for being here. There's Tina. Good to see you. Peekaboo to you. Good to see you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And I see Charlie Welch in the house, another one of our amazing patrons, and the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Skitch Crasher's in the house as well. Thank you so much for being here, Skitch Crasher. Really do appreciate the support. And I see Chris Durham Music Channel's in the house. Says, there once was a man from Calcutta who was purveyor of quite tasty butter. He made us some toast covered mostly with heart attack. And then there's ghosts. So, very cute. But thank you, Chris Durham. Appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. NANA says, JL, is everyone okay? Everyone is good. Everyone is fine. Everyone is very, very busy. Eugene and Johnny are both currently working on a shoot that they are wrapping up tonight. They have an overnight shoot that they will be, and hopefully that will be wrapping tonight. So they've been dealing with that. They've been going nonstop because when you're working on some of these smaller shoots, it's not, you constantly go. There's barely any break time. Typically, it'd be like 12 to 15 hour days. So they're working their butts off. I myself had just wrapped up writing a script for another production that I'm quite proud of. And then Aaron wasn't feeling very well, so Aaron was dealing with that, making sure that he got healthy, make sure he stayed better. And then of course Alex started a new job, and he's got meetings, and he's got the kids, so it was just things were chaotic. And so hopefully we'll get it all sorted out and get checked. But everyone is okay. Everyone is fine. So it was just a matter of just communication and people running all over the place and trying to get stuff done. So, but yeah, everyone is good. All right. I see Jinju's in the house. Jinju says, hello, everyone. How's all you scaredy bitches? We are definitely good. I have some interesting things to talk about, and I can't wait to get y'all's opinion on them. Should be a lot of fun. All right. So I see I caught everybody who's in here so far. And I know it's on Thursday, so it's going to be probably a little bit of a smaller audience tonight, but we will definitely power through it. So, Tony Regime, Chris Irving says, on the bosom of young Abigail was written the price of her tale, and on her behind for the use of the blind was some information in Braille. I love limericks. Limericks are good. The very first gift, the very first big gift I ever gave my wife, way back when we were just dating, was a book of dirty limericks. So it was a lot of fun. And we had fun with that. Elizabeth Sylvester's in the house. Good to see Elizabeth, another one of our amazing patrons. He says, hello, how are you? Where is everyone? Everyone is here. Everyone is me. I was the one that was available, and I'm going to power through the show tonight. So I hope y'all enjoyed. I will try to deliver as quality a show as we normally do, but you're stuck with me tonight. It's just me, little old JL. And I appreciate that Travis Brown, the true Week in Horror King. I don't consider myself the king, but, if the crown fits. But good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. All right. We got a bunch of stuff. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I had queued up that I cannot wait to share with y'all. Maybe most of you may know it. You may have already heard about it or heard about it a little bit, but some of you may not have. So I cannot wait to get your opinions on these things. So let's dive right in. So the very first thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really interesting was this hit the kind of the news feed, and I got the slideshow kicked up here, is that Bill Skarsgård has been cast in the reboot or remake of The Crow. Hey, Brendan Riley, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, bud. So yeah, Bill Skarsgård is going to be the new Eric Draven. I'm very, very curious. So there's a picture of Brandon Lee as the original Eric Draven and the original, and Alex Proyas' amazing masterpiece, gothic masterpiece, The Crow. But yeah, there's been a lot of kind of speculation as to who's going to pick it up, who's going to run with it. But apparently Bill Skarsgård, the face behind the new Pennywise, and of course a lot of interesting characters. He's definitely a very interesting and very talented character actor. I'm very curious as to how this is going to play out, because after Brandon Lee passed, yeah, the Skarsgårds are a huge acting family, Charlie Welch. You are correct. Absolutely. The biggest, they're enormous. So after Brandon Lee passed, and then we got like Crow, City of Angels, and then we got a whole bunch of others. I mean, and if I remember correctly, the last Crow, was it like Crow Salvation, had Edward Furlong playing the Crow, which was just, that was rough. That was a hard one, because it had David Boreanaz and Tara Reid and Edward Furlong, and I was kind of like, what is this mess? And it was really, really bad. But I don't think anybody's really filled those leather docks as Brandon Lee did, because he kicked ass in that. That was a breakthrough role for him, and I love that movie. I grew up with it, and it's going to be interesting, because a lot of people kind of like Bill Skarsgård could never do Pennywise justice because Tim Curry set a very, very high bar. But I think Bill Skarsgård did quite well. I think he really, really brought it. He emotes incredibly with his eyes. He's got, the way he's built is very unique for it. So, it's interesting. I'm very curious. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. What y'all think about Bill Skarsgård taking on the role of Eric Draven in the new Crow movie? So I see a lot of it. Cindy Johnson's in the house. Good to see you, Cindy Johnson. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm seeing a lot of no. I'm saying Charlie Welch says, what? Yeah. And then Travis Brown says, leave the Crow alone. Respect Brandon Lee. A lot of love for Brandon Lee. And then I see Raven Darkstar says, no, remake of the Crow. Charlie Welch's Crow soundtrack was unreal. Absolutely it was. One of my favorite soundtracks. Definitely. And Jinju says, I couldn't watch the last Crow movie. Yeah, it was really bad. It was just terrible. Not to mention Eddie Furlong was kind of plumpy. Because I can't remember who was, there's been 4 Crows. And they were not all Eric Draven. There was Brendan Lee, the epic first one. And then in the Crow 2, I can't remember the name of that actor. Had some interesting stuff in it, but I think that was like City of Angels. But the only returning character was the little girl who was grown up and doing it again. But that was a different actor. And number 3, it was Eric Mabius. Eric Mabius is pretty good, and I kind of dug in the third one how they did the lines on the face, and that they were burned into his face when he was executed. I kind of thought that was neat. It was an interesting little twist on it. And then of course the really, really awful Eddie Furlong vehicle, which I think was Crow Salvation or something like that. But man, that was bad. Maybe I'm mixing him up. It's been a long time since I've seen him, but this was some big, big news. Travis Brown says a crow needs to take a poop on the Crow movie. It probably does. Charlie Welch says Vincent Perez. Possibly it. It's possible. And I'm just, now that I'm thinking about it, Crow City of Angels, Crow Salvation, and Crow Wicked Prayer. That was it. So Salvation was number 3, Wicked Prayer was number 4, and Wicked Prayer was absolutely atrocious. Salvation wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. It was an interesting kind of like connected universe story. And I like Eric Mabius. I think he's a good actor. I think he's very talented. But City of Angels just was not great, because I don't think the City of Angels wasn't edited very, very well. And I think the story wasn't really fleshed out. It tried too much to be like the first one. 3 tried to do something different, which I thought was neat. It's still a revenge story, but I thought it was cool because it added an intrigue and conspiracy. And then, of course, Wicked Prayer, just awful. So we will have to wait and see how this one turns out with Bill Skarsgård taking on the role of the Crow. All right. Oh, Beaver C's in the house. Good to see you, Beaver C. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, hello. So going on to our next deal, apparently Dead Meat held its first annual Dead Meat Awards, which was a horror dedicated award ceremony that they held on the 3rd. So I am extremely curious about this one. Give me one sec. Oh, did I mess that up? Oh, I totally did. See, when it's me alone, I will screw things up. I absolutely will. This is actually supposed to be April 10th through April 16th. I totally messed up. I'm gonna have to, recut my opening so that we can fix it in post. This is the wonderful thing, when you're going alone. So bear with me, folks. But yeah, this episode is supposed to be covering movies released April 10th through April 16th. So I already fucked that up. That's just great. I'm off to a fantastic start. So back on April 3rd, and that's how I figured I messed up. Back on April 3rd, Dead Meat held its very first annual Dead Meat Awards. And this was kind of interesting. So it's a completely horror-centric award ceremony, and these were the nominees that they released. Now, this is already played. There's a link to the actual, because it was all done online. So it was not a live event. It was you broadcast live, and they had a lot of horror icons show up and talk, but it was all done over the internet. And so these were their nominees because obviously they couldn't do a live event. So the Dead Meat Horror Awards, apparently they had Best Stunts or Choreography, Deep House, Escape Room, Tournament of Champions, Halloween Kills, A Quiet Place, Malignant, and Last Night in Soho. And then we had, let me ask this. Let's go through this real quick. Who do you think would take this? Best Stunts or Choreography? Honestly, I'm torn between the Deep House, Escape Room, and Malignant, because Malignant was rough and had some really extremely brutal scenes. Escape Room, obviously, stunts in that because all the rooms are traps and they're designed to kill people. And of course, the Deep House was actually a scuba diving horror film about a couple of divers who go down to this submerged house, and the house is haunted. There's a whole bunch of, but that was all done completely underwater. So that was really, really interesting. Halloween Kills, is par for the course. Last Night in Soho, I don't think there wasn't too much that really stood out. And then, of course, A Quiet Place, CGI monsters, but that's we get that in a Marvel movie. I think those three. I'm actually, Malignant might have it because there was the sequence when the parasitic twin comes out the back of the head and everything was just insane. So that was some pretty intense stuff. But I have to give it that. But those are the options there. They also had Best Practical Effects, Antlers, Halloween Kills, Malignant, Psycho Gorman, Slacks, and Spiral. I'd actually have to give that to Psycho Gorman myself. Psycho Gorman was pretty amazing as far as practical effects go, because it was like Power Rangers on crack, and totally adult Power Rangers. Super violent, super gory, just a lot of fun. That's what I would give it to Psycho Gorman. That was pretty cool. And then we've got Best Digital Effects, Army of the Dead, The Night House, Old, Benny Loves You, Malignant, and Malignant's up for a lot of awards, big time. I actually would have to give Best Digital Effects probably to The Night House. That was actually really, really cool. That's right, Tony Regime. Underwater Suns have that extra level of danger. They absolutely do. So let me see. Best Kill, Fear Street 1994, Halloween Kills, Psycho Gorman, There's Someone Inside Your House, VHS 90, I think it's VHS 94. And then, what was this one? I can't, the freaking thing is in the way. And Old. Okay, Best Kill? Oh, that's hard. There's Someone Inside Your House is pretty good, but VHS 94 was hardcore. I don't know. That one is tough. That one's tough to decide. Then, of course, Best Lead Performer, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II from the Candyman remake, Daniel Gillies from Coming Home in the Dark, Nia Malgar from Censor. Censor was pretty awesome. That was really, really good. Rebecca Hall from The Night House, she was fantastic in that movie. Barbara Crampton from Jacob's Wife, and then, of course, that looks like Agatha Roussel from Titane. Ooh. Agatha Roussel was pretty amazing in Titane. That was an extremely weird movie about a woman that gives birth to a car. So it went there, like extreme, like a car human hybrid. But Barbara Crampton was amazing in Jacob's Wife, and Rebecca Hall was outstanding in The Night House. So I actually would have to give it to Rebecca Hall personally, because she really, really went there. She really did. And then, of course, Best Supporting Performer. And then Best Remake or Sequel. Oh, Wolf, Candyman, Quiet Place Part 2, Slumber Party Massacre, VHS 94. I'm going to give that one to... I'd probably give that one to Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills was pretty awesome. I have to give that to Halloween Kills. And then, of course, Best Original Film. Censor, Malignant, The Night House, Titan, Last Night Soho, Coming Home in the Dark. I would probably have to give it to Night House. Night House was riveting. Night House was like amazing. So, and of course, Malignant was also fantastic, but Malignant was very, very 50-50. You either absolutely loved it or you absolutely hated it. But The Night House was fantastic. Like through and through, I haven't met a single person who did not like The Night House. So really, really, we actually showed that over in the Week in Horror Discord. So, but Malignant was intense. Oh, that was a rough one. So yeah, but yeah, those were the Dead Meat Horror Awards. They aired April 3rd. And that link, if you want to watch that video, goes directly to their channel. That is down in the description below. So next up after that, this was interesting. And hopefully we will see this very, very soon over at our over at the Digital Darkness, which is our YouTube gaming channel where we play horror games, hosted by the amazing Alien X Gaming, who's doing an amazing job over there. I hope we all have jumped over there and subscribed to Digital Darkness. So that link is also in the description. And of course, hopefully we will see this game soon. I don't know if you've heard about it, but here we go. Check out the trailer.
Later, kids.
Yeah, Hackett's Quarry forever.
This is so classic.
I just want to get you guys safely out of Dodge before the sun goes down. Damn it! I thought I told you kids to check everything.
Look, it's not that big of a deal, okay? We'll just spend one more night here.
No! No! Just stop. Let me think. Okay. Make sure that everybody is inside the lodge for tonight. Lock the doors. No one in, no one out. No one. Got it? I'll be back first thing in the morning, and we'll get you all on the road.
What if we're out partying tonight, out in the woods, and we end up in a most dangerous game situation?
Like when people hunt other people?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Camp is over, and hunting season has just begun.
I did see a weird light in the treehouse across the lake. That was pretty spooky. Maybe it's your girlfriend, Ryan.
The hack of Hackett's Quarry.
Did you hear that? Should we look?
Maybe it was the bears.
And why does everyone blame everything on bears? Okay.
You got anything better? I mean, like zombies, aliens, time-hopping Draculas.
Ryan?
Hey! Run! Anything needs to happen, please!
We ain't playing games no more, little girl.
There's something coming! 1,
Ah!
2, lost. Max, we're lost. 3!
Terrified kids are bad for business.
You have to cut it off! Cut it off! Cut it off!
Anyway, maybe just ease up on the ghost stories.
Sorry.
Just stick to Kumbaya next time, okay?
What's that?
You guys don't do Kumbaya anymore?
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the show.
That looks amazing. And of course, a host of like huge actors that are in that. So David Arquette, David Arquette, Lance Hendrickson, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, Lynn Shay, and freaking Ethan Suplee looking like a straight unit. If you've seen pictures of Ethan Suplee lately, that guy is gotten ridiculous. So, but I'm seriously looking forward to that one. Hopefully, we will see that played live. Yeah, Earl's brother from My Name is Earl. Yep, Ethan Suplee. Used to be a really, really, really big guy, but he has since gotten like straight jacked, and that dude is a unit now. So I'm looking forward to that game coming out. Hopefully, we will see that played live over on Digital Darkness. Should be really, really good. Just a good classic slasher film. So those are the big things that came up that I wanted to talk about, and wanted to get your guys' opinion on, and see what y'all thought. And I think it is first person. I think it's from what I can tell from the gameplay. Angel Rivera asked, "Is it first person?" I think it's a first person cinematic experience, which may kind of be like. It make a move from first person to third person to cinematic, which is very similar to like God of War and like this, or similar to BioShock, because it is 2K games and Supermassive. And 2K, it really, really specializes in that. So given the work that they've done on survival horror like BioShock, I'm seriously looking forward to this one. Really, really good. Travis Brown says, it is more choose your own story like Until Dawn. Very cool, with multiple endings, which always makes it a lot of fun. So I'm very curious. I can't wait to get my hands on the controller and play that bad boy. So it'll be fun. I'm hoping Alien X will get that out, because I think it's available for pre-order now via the Microsoft Store, wherever you get games. So I'm looking forward to that one big time. All right, so I think it is about time that we get into the movies that we're going to talk about, or that I am going to talk about tonight, and hear what you guys think about it, because we got some interesting ones, which is crazy because we had good ones this week, really solid ones that, and unfortunately I'm the only one that gets to talk about them this week. So, but that's okay. We'll jump on it. So let's jump into our first one. The very first movie that we are addressing, that we're talking about tonight, released April 13th, 1984. Most of you have probably seen it. This is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the fourth one in the franchise, and the one that was supposed to be the end. Let's check out the trailer. There it is.
Three times before, you have felt the terror, known the madness, lived the horror. But this is the one you've been screaming for. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Jason is back. He moves like a shadow, dark and silent.
Sorry, you changed your mind?
He never utters a word. He doesn't even seem to breathe.
Where the hell's the corkscrew?
He simply, mindlessly, mercilessly kills. But now, Jason's reign of terror is over. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Friday, April 13th, is Jason's unlucky day.
Was it though? Was it Jason's unlucky day? So this one was super, super interesting. So to break this bad boy down, it was directed by Joseph Zito and written by Barney Cohen and starring Kimberly Beck, Peter Barton, Corey Feldman, E. Eric Anderson, Crispin Glover with the corkscrew kill, Barbara Howard, Lawrence Monason, Joan Freeman, Judy Aronson, and Camilla and Carrie Moore. So this one was really, really, really intriguing because the elements behind this one, the intention was to have Jason go out with a giant bang. And what happens is that, ostensibly what was going on behind the scenes was Frank Mancuso was kind of getting a little burned out on producing Friday the 13th material. And this one came out in 1984. So, and he'd pretty much been producing them since the very first ones. For 4 years, it'd been like Friday the 13th. And he felt that he was kind of becoming, he's right there. He's standing in my closet. Frank Mancuso kind of felt like he was becoming kind of a laughingstock. He didn't think that people respected him because his primary focus thing he was becoming known for was producing Friday the 13th movies, and they were pretty simplistic slasher films. And Paramount also was kind of, not really digging the fact that they were slowly but surely becoming known as the Friday the 13th production house. So Paramount and Mancuso both kind of wanted out. So the intention was to end the Jason Voorhees saga, the final chapter, and be done with it and finally finish him off. And when they decided to do this, they were going to go, even though they knew it was going to make money, they decided to go for broke and just make something completely different from the usual. Now, of course, there's all the slasher movie tropes that go throughout this whole thing. You got some fantastic kills in it. The dude in the morgue with the I don't know what a hacksaw is doing in a morgue, like a carpentry hacksaw. But the guy and takes his head off, and then go through the shower kill, and there were so many good ones. And of course, the corkscrew set up, and then the corkscrew, and then the cleaver to the head with Crispin Glover was fantastic. But what the intention of this one was to create a different kind of element. In that, number one, there was no final girl. So the hero of the story wasn't centered upon one person. It was actually multiple people. It was the single mom and her son, and played by Corey Feldman, who was actually doing double duty at the time. He was doing this. He played this, and I think he was doing Goonies at the same time. If I remember correctly, 1984. I know he was doubling up. So, but Corey Feldman was shooting this one, and went out and did all of his scenes. Or was it another film? There was something else. I think it was this one. He was doubling up because he was doing Goonies. He had to go back and forth, and so Corey Feldman was doing this film. And he winds up being the hero of it, Tommy, who went on to become the hero of 5 and the hero of 6. And so what they were trying to do was go out with a huge bang. So the violence was ramped up. Jason was going to die. We didn't have a final girl. Everything was done differently than what you normally would expect, what they had set up from 1, 2, and 3. So we already knew who the killer was, where he's readily revealed. And then that's when we do the big super fights against him. He gets the machete through the hand, he gets the axe in the head, and all the craziness that was going on. So I can't remember which one Feldman was doubling up on at the time. I know he was doing 2 at a time. Because remember, I think there was also Stand By Me. Was around there as well. Was it Stand By Me? Oh, early Corey Feldman. We could go on that for days. But I know he had a number. He had something he was doing double the time. But I know he was brought in to do this one. Let me see here. Travis Brown says this is also when Tom Savini wanting to kill off Jason like Frankenstein wanting to kill his own monster. Yeah, and that's what Tom Savini wanted to be a part of it because he's essentially the one that gave Jason his look and brought him in and created him. So he wanted to be the one to take him out and do all the cool effects to him. So and then we get the machete through the hand and all the absolute craziness that goes through. And then of course the big epic finale where Corey Feldman, hacks him to death with the machete. And then we realize that Corey Feldman's character, Tommy, is lost it in that final shot. So this ended quite differently from the way other films did. And so they released it and it was so freaking good that it literally next year they would do another one. So from at one point everyone wanted to quit. They didn't want to do any more Jason movies. The popularity of this thing was so huge that Jason was finally going to die that they demanded more and they wanted more. And so less than a year later, we would get Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. And in A New Beginning, there was not Jason. It was a guy masquerading as Jason because the intention was they wanted to take the Friday the 13th franchise into a different direction and do something a little bit new with it. But fans demanded Jason, and that's why he was brought back at 6. Jason Lives, where Tommy inadvertently, strikes him, gets him struck by lightning. He reanimates, comes back all supernatural and super powerful into, what we know today. So that was the big thing. Tried to go out with a bang. Set it, to give everybody an opportunity to go off and do other things, and wound up cementing it into the future of horror fandom. It would have only been 4 films, but when they tried to change things up and do things a little bit differently, they wound up striking gold on that, and everybody loved it. And so, bam. And then, Travis Brown says it's like how Michael Bay wanted to finish the 3rd Transformers film, finish with the 3rd Transformers film, but made 2 more. It happens. They make super amounts of money. They're willing to put money in your pocket to do it. That's the way it goes. And then, of course, 5 was okay. It wasn't a really big hit when they found out, it's not Jason after all. It was the guy getting revenge for his son. So then the fans demanded Jason. They brought him back in 6. It's been Jason ever since. So this one was really, it's a big standout. Obviously, 3 is the one where he gets his mask. 4 is the one where he supposedly dies. And then 5 was the imposter. But in this particular one, they went for broke. And they tried to set it up so that they could all go and do cool things and not have to worry about it anymore. But no, Jason wasn't going to die, and the fans are what kept it going and what kept it alive, which is pretty amazing. Now, as it stands, for the franchise in and of itself, everyone's aware that there's been a huge battle with the rights in this particular one. And there was like, who owned the rights to young Jason, who owned the rights to the original, to the big, burly Jason, who owned the rights to the film, who had the film distribution rights. And it was really problematic, long time in court. And now I believe that has finally been settled. And so the question now becomes, after the Michael Bay produced, actually, I think with 9, 10, Freddy vs. Jason, and then 7, 8, 9, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and the Michael Bay reboot, which was not bad. Derek Mears was a very effective Jason, nice and violent. It had all the classic stuff in it, but it really didn't go anywhere. It didn't tread new ground, didn't bring anything new, and it wasn't Kane Hodder because they keep wanting bigger and bigger Jasons. Because for Freddy vs. Jason, they left out Kane Hodder, even though he looked badass in Jason X. They left him out of Freddy vs. Jason for Ken Kersinger, and then brought in Derek Mears. I love Derek Mears. I've met him a couple times before. He's an amazing actor. I loved him in Swamp Thing. I think he is as good a stuntman and monster performer as he is an actor. So the guy is fantastic. Swamp Thing was one of his best roles ever, where he got to really act and be the monster. So Derek Mears did well, but people weren't expecting it. The characters weren't really all that likable. I think Jared Padalecki, I love from Supernatural. I think he kind of phoned it in, and because everybody knew kind of this Friday the 13th movie, and it just wasn't paid the respect that it deserved. Very similar to the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It kind of went the exact same route, just kind of like, and then the fanfare dropped off. So the question I want to ask the audience, ask y'all, given the current state of it, now that the lawsuits have all been settled, now we know where we are. We did get the Friday the 13th video game. There were some hassles over that as well. I don't even think it's currently going anymore. But do we need or do we want more Friday the 13th? Now, obviously, at this point right now, so many years have gone by. Kane Hodder probably will not play the role. Now, Kane Hodder has not said that he is officially retired from the role of Jason Voorhees. We do know that Robert Englund has retired. He's retired from the role of Freddy. We know that Bruce Campbell is retired from the role of Ash, and we know that most likely David Bradley is retired from the role of Pinhead. So all of our epic actors and stuntmen who have played these characters for years, time goes on, they have retired from the roles. They're passing them on to other people. But Kane Hodder has not. Now, he did do the Hatchet films, which was kind of like a chance to be Jason again without being Jason. But now the question is, now that we're said, do we want more? Do we want more Friday the 13th? Do we want to add to the collection? I've got the Blu-ray set sitting right here on my desk. And, I bet you it's cool. I've got he's standing, that's it, standing in my closet. And do we want any more? And that's what I want to ask y'all. Yes or no? More Friday the 13th. Travis Brown says, I think Jason needs to retire and not beat the horse so much for more Friday the 13th films. Raven Darkstar says, I won't comment. Cindy Sue, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, Cindy. Appreciate it. Thank you for the support. And Annie says, I say no. I think the general consensus might be that no more Friday the 13th films. That may be it. It was rough going out on a Michael Bay note, unfortunately. It was when I found out that Michael Bay was producing it, I was like I was watching it in the theater, and I said, when are we going to see an explosion? When are we going to see an explosion? When's there going to be a fireball? When's it going to happen? And sure as shit, third act, they're running through the tunnels to get away from Derek Mears' Jason. Bam. We got a lantern falls down, catch fire, boom, like that. There it was. Need to have an explosion in it. I think, and personally, as much as I love Jason, Kane Hodder will always be Jason to me. I have much love for CJ Graham and a lot of the other individuals that play Jason. But Kane Hodder will always be Jason to me. It was a travesty, and pretty much I think the downward slide after he was left out of Freddy vs. Jason, that was embarrassing. And that was a real screw up on Paramount and New Line's behalf. They should have fought for that to have those two. We all wanted it, and we didn't get that. So I think that's where it began to slide down. And then, Robert Englund was done. And I think it might be, there might most likely we will get another remake somewhere down the line. Some other huge muscular stuntman actor is going to look at what the guys did before, look what Kane Hodder did, look what Derek Mears did, look what Ken Kersinger did, and all the other actors, and try to make it him, kind of make it his own. And unfortunately, I don't know if it'll be any good, but as it stands now, there's nothing planned to continue the franchise or in anything other than like comic book form. So I think this may be it. And honestly, I have to agree with Jinju. Leave it lie. Now, that's an interesting question. Oh, Miss Tina says, nope, enough is enough. Yeah. Now, Donnie does that. Good to see you, Donnie. Thank you so much for being here, bud. Says, what if Rob Zombie did one? Ugh. Rob Zombie's new Monsters is coming out. We're slowly but surely getting more information about his Monsters movie. I don't know. Rob, that would be intriguing. A Rob Zombie Friday the 13th film. That's interesting. I honestly don't know. That would be weird. So, but definitely let us know. Hey, Christian's Movie Domain. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. It's your first time, so everybody give him a giant welcome. Thank you so much. Oh, Tony Regime says Tom Hardy as Jason would be interesting. Intriguing. That would be. So, but yeah, that was what I was curious about. So definitely let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what you think. Should we get more Friday the 13th films? Should we? Or should we just leave it lie? Is Jason done and doesn't need to be rebooted anymore? And is just, he has his place in horror history as an icon that will never die. We don't need to revisit it anymore. We've got it. Fantastic. All right, so moving on to our Jason versus Dora the Explorer. Yo soy Dora. Flat. If anybody's ever seen those Dora videos, I don't know the name of that girl that puts it, but she does the voice, and everybody around her gets annoyed. They usually end up hitting her with something, and I can just see that. Let me see. All right, so let's jump on to our next. I was suddenly thinking that she would say that, and it'd be like saying something like, "What was it? You have it was like pointing out that is a machete. There's a machete." So, very. What is this? Oh, and the map flies up into Jason's face. That's funny. All right, so let's dive into our next film. This one's a little bit different. From a Friday the 13th film. So I'm glad we were able to start off strong. Let's see if we can keep it going. Our next movie released April 12th. I almost said February. April 12th, 2005. And I almost, because it's an F. This is Flight 7500. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer. That's not the trailer. This is the trailer.
All my bags are packed. I'm ready to go.
Of course, I'm going to do a creepy version of this song.
Standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye.
Anybody else think Armageddon when they hear that song?
LAX, this is Vista Pacific 7500 Heavy. Looking to pick up clearance for Tokyo.
Taxi's waiting.
Flight 10's prepared for takeoff.
Excuse me, all electronic devices must be turned off.
Total urban myth, by the way. I guarantee you I leave this thing on, nothing will happen.
So kiss me and smile for
See? This is the captain. We're approaching a little rough air. It shouldn't be too bad.
Vista Pacific, Flight 7500, do you copy? 7500, do you copy?
I'm leaving on a jet plane.
So that was the trailer for Flight 7500. So an interesting little film and some things to talk about this one. But directed by Takashi Shimizu, which you should recognize because Shimizu directed The Grudge and directed the Ju-On franchise. So definitely horror royalty there. Brought us the Ju-on franchise, and of course the American remake, which I thought was really good, was really, really scary. And so I was, I remember when this was first coming out, I was seriously looking forward to it. But directed by Takashi Shimizu and written by Craig Rosenberg, starring Leslie Bibb, Jerry Ferrara, Ryan Quanten, and Amy Smart. And of course, a number of other actors you probably recognize. I know that the actress that plays Rosita is actually on The Walking Dead, was actually in that movie as well. But Shinju says the guy with the briefcase was taking the videotape back to Japan. So much like other stuff that Shimizu has worked on, because The Grudge itself is based upon Japanese folklore. The one surrounding a curse that can the curse that can kind of like permeate an area if a person violently dies in that place, and then that curse visits itself upon anybody who trespasses there. This follows along the same lines. I see Anna says, "Wow, I dozed off." What's interesting is that trailer was cut to be very action oriented. The movie itself is really not. It's not. It's more of a brooding meditation on kind of like life, death, acceptance, and there's some interesting concepts in it. So what this one is, first and foremost, it takes place on a plane. Jinju says, I bypassed it so many times, didn't look interesting. Now it deserves another look. I recommend it. It's not a bad movie. It's absolutely not a bad movie. And he says, from the makers of Snakes on a Plane, Ghosts on a Plane. My kind of movie. Lots of alternative energy there. But obviously, first and foremost, it takes place on a plane. Before we dive into the Japanese mythology, which I kind of have an issue with, planes. Planes bug me. I've flown many times before. In the job that I currently have and the work that I do, I have to fly. And I don't like turbulence. I really don't. I don't like that feeling of my stomach. Unless I'm on a roller coaster, I don't like that feeling of my stomach bottoming out. And it's really, it freaks me out. And so I end up like gripping the handlebars. All of my friends, my wife, it doesn't bother them. But it bugs me. And so just because, my mind goes there. It's kind of like swimming out in the ocean. My brain goes to places. And when you're up in a plane, you're 30,000 feet. It's inherently scary. We're in a metal tube flying at 700 miles an hour. It's just like, it gets me. It's just me. And so in this one, planes already super creepy going in. But in this particular one, it starts off very much like trying to play off those tropes and play off the tropes of, like severe turbulence, something happening on the plane. They're in the middle. They're over the middle of the, what was it? They're over the middle of the Pacific because they're traveling to, they're traveling from Japan to LA, to Los Angeles. And everybody's leaving. Or they're traveling. No, they're traveling to Japan. They're traveling from LAX to Tokyo. So they're over the Pacific Ocean. I've been over the Pacific Ocean flying to Hawaii. That's actually quite creepy because at a certain point you look down and there's like nothing but water everywhere. And if you went down, they'd never find you. So that's what's scary to me. And then, of course, you add in the elements that there is a presence on it because shortly after everybody boards, we establish all the characters. Then, of course, this strange acting, suspicious guy. There's a guy gets on who's acting all suspicious. He winds up dying. And when he dies, then shit gets real. To quote Eugene, then shit really gets real. And it becomes kind of a mystery in that respect. So the trailer was cut very much more action-oriented than it is. And at this point, it becomes kind of a mystery as to what's going on. So as we get the sense that there's this presence on board that something is going on, we get more familiar with everybody, that everybody's got something very, 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 very important in their lives that they have to deal with. Ryan Kwan and Amy Smart are a couple that are deciding to divorce. We have a couple that just got married, a girl that thinks that she might be pregnant. And then we got the grifter who's the one dude who's pretty much ripping people off. And he's a thief. And then, of course, and a number of others. And, of course, the flight attendant. So one flight attendant, she's about to get married. And then one flight attendant who's currently sleeping with the pilot. So and he's married. So all of these things that people are holding on to. And then all of a sudden something goes down. And then the evil president starts, lurking about. People start disappearing. So in this particular one, this one came out in 2005. So there is, Oh, wow. So, Cindy says, a friend of mine was on the Sioux City plane crash. Took me a while to be back on planes with trepidation. Don't know if I will watch this one, especially since I travel over the Atlantic. Cindy said, Danny, that sucks. Yeah. But Tony says, flying is spending several hours in a can full of other people's farts. So in this one, like I said, it's more of a meditation on life, death, and the things that we hold important and the things that keep us grounded to, basically the things that keep us holding on to our lives in and of itself. Because the story that the story that was written that Rosenberg read, Elizabeth Sylvester says, yuck. The story that Rosenberg wrote follows the Japanese folklore of a, what's it called? I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly. I do not want to mispronounce this because it's important. A Shinigami. Okay. So those familiar with it, a Shinigami is a kind of a death associated spirit. It's not like a death spirit, not like a grim reaper, not something that takes you away, but they are attracted to people who are dying, and they are attracted to places of death. So Shinigami is a very wide category of ghosts and spirits in Japanese folklore. Onis are Shinigami technically, but those are demons. So they all have the different things with different names. So Shinigami is a very broad term. And so what this guy does, what the suspicious man does, is he brings on, after he dies, they find out that he has this doll on him that he was bringing to Japan for someone there, and it was a death doll, recognized as a Shinigami by one of the people on the plane. Now, the way that it's used, unlike The Grudge, this is one of my issues with this, is that unlike The Grudge, where The Grudge is legitimately based in Japanese tradition and Japanese beliefs, the curse concept is, widely known, which is why The Grudge was so terrifying, because it's something that people legitimately believe in. This was kind of a misrepresentation of the Shinigami, in that because the Japanese don't have a figure like the Grim Reaper, similar to us. They have spirits that are surrounding like death, but it's kind of like, Norse mythology, where they don't have like a Grim Reaper, but they have spirits that are around death that can aid people in times of war and can transport people to the afterlife. Shinigami don't really do that as a general term. So that's the thing that bugged me, because I was expecting something very much along the lines of the Grudge, where it was something that was really, really grounded. But in this one, it winds up basically the Shinigami is basically the Grim Reaper, because something takes place on the plane. I'm not going to directly spoil it, because I know there's some people that haven't seen this one, but something takes place on the plane, and that's why people start disappearing, and then the Shinigami is the one that's doing it. And the Shinigami appears as people that they recognize. So, and that's how it's taking people away and disappearing them. So I was kind of like, and not to mention, it's not really that action oriented. There's the big turbulence scene, and there's a couple of moments, but otherwise it's pretty much trying to solve this mystery while they're on the plane, seeing weird stuff outside the windows, and them not realizing what's really, really going on. So this particular one, I thought was well intended, but did not grasp the way The Grudge did, because I think this was kind of a misuse of that historical folklore. I'm not going to go, so far as to call it disrespectful, but I think that when you ground it more in reality, you have a more effective story to tell, and that people will be drawn into it more because they know that this is something that a lot of people hold true. And so I think they could have done better. The acting in it was decent. I'm a fan of Amy Smart. I like Ryan Quanten. I've liked Ryan Quanten ever since True Blood. You loved him in Knights of Badassdom. But yeah, I think that it could have been done better. But still, not a terrible film. Really, really decent. And I think for those that dig the Japanese mythology that plays into it, you may like it. You may not like it, because they kind of change it up a little bit. In the way Shinigami operate, but because Shinigami are typically possessing agents, they possess people and they drive people to commit suicide. Is essentially what Shinigami do. They can drive people to places of death. They can push people to commit suicide. People who are already doing it, and the Shinigami comes in, and then the person does the act. So that's essentially what Shinigami are. This one doesn't really operate like that. They made the Shinigami more like a Grim Reaper, which I didn't really agree with. That's why I dug The Grudge. That's why I dug The Ring. The ideas of justice from beyond the grave, that kind of like speaks to me in a sense. So this one I thought was a little bit mishandled, and it could have been better. Well, it could have been better. It definitely was not the worst terror on a plane film that I've ever seen. There are definitely some bad ones out there. Altitude was pretty janky, and typically plane movies don't tend to be horror films; they tend to be thrillers. So like Flight Plan, but in this particular one, yeah, I thought it was all right. Not to mention, get some decent acting. Leslie Bibb is a horror staple with movies like Midnight Meat Train, of course, Amy Smart as well. But yeah, this one wasn't too terrible. But my question is, what do we got here? It says, Elizabeth says, I like your beard. You recently dyed it. Yes, I did. I dyed this for Autism Acceptance Month. Autism Acceptance Month. I dyed my beard red. So and it's going to be red for pretty much the month. So it's going to be red when I go to Texas Frightmare Weekend. This should be a lot of fun. So a lot of people have a lot of so Angel Rivera says Shinigamis are gods or supernatural spirits that invite humans towards death in certain aspects of Japanese religion and culture. This is right. This is true. Absolutely. That's why I don't think it was really portrayed very well here, because it was in this one. It was pretty much portrayed as a Grim Reaper leading people away once they've dealt with their personal business that's keeping them attached to their lives. So once they go, and I don't want to spoil exactly what goes down, but for those who haven't seen it, but it happens, and you'll pretty much pick up the twist, right off the bat. But in this particular one, like I said, it could have been done better. But my curiosity is this. And I want to ask the audience, because we talked a lot about flying, and we talked a lot about the terror at 30,000 feet. Thank you very much, Elizabeth Sylvester. I want to know, do you fear flying? Down deep, does it still bug you that you're in a tin can flying at 700 miles an hour over great, vast places unknown? Whether it bugs you a little or whether you're terrified of it. Well, I'm kind of curious about that, because I'll tell you what, it bothers me sometimes. When the flight's steady and cool and everything goes great, obviously, every flight that goes great is fantastic. But, the turbulence thing, I could seriously do without that. So, but, nonetheless, it's just something, it's like I go deep in the ocean when I'm swimming in the ocean. All my friends go out farther than me because I know what's in that water. And, and the shark that's going to grab me is always just a few feet away. So, but they'll go out deep. They'll be swimming out like way past. And I'm like, nope, I'll be staying here where I can touch the sand. And even then I know it's dangerous, but at least the sand gives me some comfort. So, but yeah. Are you afraid of flying? Let me know in the live chat here or in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Let me see here. We've got a lot of people that don't mind it. Angel Rivera says, I flew from PR to Andrews, 5 hours, slept through 4 of them. Pretty good one. Travis Brown says, I have a little fear of heights, but I've never flown on a plane. Your first experience would be cool. I will guarantee that. Your first experience would be cool, especially during takeoff. Especially, it's always kind of neat. Going when you're pushed back in the sheet and the G's start picking up. It's a lot of fun. Skitch crashes. I jumped out of enough C-130s to be okay with flying. I think that would do it. Yep. Cindy Johnson doesn't mind flying. And Annie says, doesn't bother me. I enjoy turbulence. And Angel Rivera says, don't fear flying. Never have even with the last scare where the plane dropped like 50 feet due to turbulence. Cindy Sue says, I'm fine with it. Just took a while to get back in the seat. And Donnie does that, says, doesn't bother me at all. Of course, I'm obsessed with aerospace tech. So for me, it's more of an adventure. Cindy John says, I actually know a lot of pilots that are afraid of heights. That's interesting. That is interesting. Elizabeth Sylvester says, I'm sure I can deal with that better than a really fast tarantula sling taking off up my arm and bolting all over the place. Spiders. Christian's Movie Domain says, I've never flown on a plane either. I have a fear of it. I recommend it at least once. I recommend it at least once because it's cool to fly. It's really neat. I like the idea of Brendan Riley says flying business class is awesome. Actually, flying first class is amazing. It really, really was. If I was gonna be in a plane that went down, it would be in first class. Hot nuts, warm towel, champagne. We're going out in style. We're going out in airplane style. Raven Darkster says, I'm fine only when I'm in the pilot seat. Jinju says, try landing in Tucson, Arizona during turbulence. You're already dropping about 100 feet in a minute or so and then have another drop of about 300 feet. Fun times. Oh, gross. It's, you see, that's what gets me. Just, I hate that. I can't stand it. And I would not want to go with that feeling in my gut. It's just, that's just the way it is. But, there's some people who have, like I said, it's still, but I still have to fly. I still go places, but because I have to, because it's not like I can drive all over the United States. But yeah, it's always me just, just freaking out a little bit. Cindy Sue says, my ex was an airframe and power plant mechanic. I could even fly after hearing his stories. Logical Hillbilly says, I don't like riding in anything where I can't keep an eye on the driver. Oh, good point. Good point. And Logical Hillbilly, thank you so much for being here, bud. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Tony Regime says, light aircraft are more fun. Oh, I get that. Like a little single engine Cessna. That's very cool. Cindy John says, don't fly with double ear infections. I will take your advice on that. Absolutely. Okay. So, but definitely let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com if you are afraid of flying. Maybe this movie, Flight 7500, is a little too much for you. So let's move on to our next film. To our next one. I got to pull it up on my notes here. I hope I'm doing all right. I hope I'm running the show okay. I hope y'all are enjoying it. I know it's just me, and normally we have the other guys here, but I hope I'm doing okay. So bear with me as I power through this one. All right, so next up, released April 15th, 2003, we have the sequel, Cube 2, Hypercube. Yes, the Hypercube. Let's take a look at this trailer.
The first cube was a formula for death. Unless you cracked the code.
If any of these numbers are prime, then the room is trapped. Oh my god.
But now...
Hello? Anyone here?
Terror has a new dimension.
So does anyone remember how we got here? Where's the damn number? This isn't a game.
The first one has rules.
In this place, space defies reason.
All the realities are starting to collapse here.
Time has no meaning.
Think that this is just an optical illusion or something?
And reality is out to get you.
The fun's just beginning.
It's only a matter of time.
We are definitely not alone.
I'm coming. I refuse to die here.
Cube 2, Hypercube. There are no rules.
So that was the trailer for Cube 2 Hypercube. This is an interesting one. So, Canadian produced film, and of course, directed by Andrei Sekula. No, sorry, I mispronounced that. Andrei Sekula, my bad. Story by Sean Hood and starring Carrie Matchett, Garrett Wynn Davies, Grace Lynn Kung, Matthew Ferguson, and Neil Crone. So this one picks up pretty much after the events of the first Cube film, which you remember the original one was pretty much a very gory and very violent time, and not to mention that I would say far grittier. This one is a heck of a lot cleaner, but this one picks up. The cube is different. There's a new group of people that are trapped in the cube, all of them for various different reasons, and the cube itself is no longer just traps like razor wire and fire and acid, but now it is a quantum, I guess what they call a tesseract, where there are ostensibly infinite rooms and the way out is even more difficult to ascertain. So in this particular one, one thing that should be said about Cube 2 is that this movie, it was definitely an improvement over the first one without actually improving anything. Which is interesting to say because the very first Cube was done very much on the cheap. I think they only had like 2 or 3 rooms that they actually worked with, and they colored the walls differently by putting different lights through it, and then just basically shining to make the rooms look, to give a variety of different rooms that they're playing with. And it was definitely character driven. Had Nicole DeBoer, you should remember her from Deep Space Nine. And there was an interesting, well-driven movie. I enjoyed it very, very much. But Cube 2, Hypercube, took it in a new direction by bringing in this whole the idea of where the traps are not only just nasty, but they're also essentially, they play with this idea of what quantum reality is and how you can have multiple time states. You can have time phasic traps. You can have things that appear out of nowhere, things that disappear. And so, and how you can literally, in this cube, you can be going through one door and see yourself coming out of, like, you could open up a panel and go through a door and see yourself leaving out the same door. So like two rooms could coexist next to each other or even simultaneously. So they play with it for the visual appeal, for the video. They don't explain, none of the science is explained behind it. They don't try to waste time trying to like break this down in a kind of mathematical or scientific sense. They just say, when quantum's involved, you can be as crazy as you want and do as many wacky things as you want. But this also means a lot more CGI. And the problem is that the CGI in this one is not particularly great. So some of it looks kind of goofy, especially for 2003. There was definitely better stuff out there. CGI done on the cheap. But what's weird is it really doesn't take away from the movie, because the characters in it are actually really well done. I'm a big fan of Garrett Wynn Davies, been a fan of him since Forever Night. I think he's a very, very talented actor. I like the dynamic of everybody, not to mention not everybody there was there for punishment. Not everybody was there as like some people were as an experimentation, but there were people that had the designer had escaped into the cube. So one of the people that's trapped in there actually, wrote the code for the place. And then one person worked on it and helped to design it. Garrett Wynn Davies was a private investigator who was looking for someone, an employee that disappeared. He winds up going crazy and becoming a mass murderer. So yes, definitely it's Raven Darkstar. It's fourth dimensional instead of three-dimensional. So this one I thought was cool, and it had some interesting ideas. Some of the stuff was done a little bit on the cheap. Some of the traps just look kind of cheap. They weren't as gory or graphic as the first Cube, and definitely not as graphic as Cube 0, where it really went back to the horror roots of it and the gruesome nastiness that they could produce. But otherwise, as far as it goes, I dug the clean look of this one, whereas Cube 0 and the original Cube were very gritty, very grimy. And almost, I would say, almost in an Aliens, it's like that greasy mechanism kind of thing, almost steampunky in a sense of it. But this one was, super futuristic. The technology is super advanced, so they wanted a very clean look. All of the rooms look identical. The rooms don't have to be opened with levers. They have touch panels in the rooms, and the doors automatically open. But and cool effects, like you could open a door and the panel opens and you see yourself. And you're like, what's going on there? Then the door closes, you open it again, and then the room is changed and it's gone. Or someone could go through a door and someone could be, the bad guy could be chasing them, hit the deal and it opens up, and all of a sudden the person's vanished. And it was only like a second before because they're not really there anymore. So there's some fun stuff. This is one of the cool things that when you bring in and you don't worry about the science, you just worry about, doing cool things. So like, oh, it could be this, it could be this. You can have fun with it and do a lot of interesting things. So visually speaking, the film was really good and it had some interesting concepts. Otherwise, because of the characters, because of the acting, because of the writing was better than Cube, in my personal opinion. And because of all this, you can kind of just say, CGI, whatever, it's all good. We get what they're trying to say. But trying to follow along with this and get the story and unveil, unwrap the mystery of what's going on and who the lead actor really is, the lead actress, and what she's doing there, because we figure out everybody, but we don't figure out her until the end. And so I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I kind of dug this one. And of course, when you play with science, you get to do all the scary bits. So you get to go, I thought some of the more interesting stuff were the rooms that sped up time. You walked into them and time sped up, but you could watch them sped up from outside, but people inside of it could look at you and see that you were going all slow until you entered the room and you caught up to their time speed. And then, of course, gravity shifting rooms, rooms that were essentially like temporal mirrors, where you're seeing yourself, like you're moving into another room and you see yourself on the other side of the room, moving into that room. And so you get all kinds of cool effects, and obviously a lot of great scene, a lot of fun with this one. Take it easy, Christian's Movie Domain. Says, I have to dip. I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good night. Great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you decided to pop by. Hope to see you on the next one. And yes, a Tesseract. So, and I dug this one because the first one, the thing about Cube, what made it interesting is not only the actors and the people that were the dynamics of the actors, but also the mathematical sense of it. Trying to figure out somehow in the codes as to how to figure this one out. But in this one, and they went deep in that, with the mathematics of it. But in this particular one, when you're going into these fields, trying to put this mathematics, trying to put this math out there, try to explain it is very difficult. All they could do is really show it. So they show the math in various places where people have written down on the walls like what all this is and how these parallel realities are all over the place. So you go into it, there's multiple realities of you that exist in this place. And then that's a big climax that everything comes crashing down, all the realities converge. So in this particular one, I dug where they went with this and did a lot of and had fun with it and got to play with science and use all the little scary bits of science because science in horror films is always about advanced tech. In 2003, obviously, this would have been extremely advanced as, levels of understanding of quantum mechanics. It was kind of, and yes, Raven, you are correct. There was an Outer Limits similar to Hypercube in plot. There absolutely was. And the Outer Limits was also a Canadian-produced show that competed with the new Twilight Zone. So in this particular one, I always dig the scary bits of science, where science is advanced to a point that we can then use it, and where it borders on where the science becomes so advanced it's bordered on the supernatural. And I dug that one a little bit. And then of course Cube Zero went back to its roots. But that's what makes ones fun like this, because when you're shooting a movie, especially a movie like this, if you're going into the realm of just doing crazy scientific stuff, that's the benefit of CGI and of course green screens, is you can have as much fun as you want and you can depict the science in any way that you want because it's so kind of hypothetical and advanced that nobody really knows what it would look like in reality. So you can do cool stuff with that. You can say, well, it may look like this in reality, but what we can do, and of course movie magic, we can make all that happen, which is probably what makes a movie like this really, really fun, especially when people are, seeing themselves and interacting. I think that's really, really cool. My favorite of these types of movies are ones that really push the like genetics and biology and areas that where the real question is, should we tinker with these things? Obviously, quantum mechanics, and there's utility there. Why use it to torture people? I'm not 100% sure. And there is the kind of like twisty ending where it turns out like the primary act, the lead actress, she turns out to be an operative who was sent in there for a specific reason. She was sent in there to look for a particular target in the room. She winds up being the one to escape, and then she hands over the details, and then of course they unceremoniously execute her because it's supposed to remain confidential. So, but we find out that when she comes out of it, she's lying in this pool of water, which gives more to the concept of what was really going on. But she goes in, comes out, manages to survive, and then they just offered at the end, try to keep the secret. And it ended a little bit unceremoniously. There is an alternate ending, which I thought was a little bit better. It's just my opinion on that, because it added a little bit more context to what was going on and what she was doing. I thought they should have stuck with that. But in this one, it keeps the whole kind of like secret government thing, like what's going on, why are they using the Hypercube? And they didn't go to a Cube 3. They went Cube 0, which was a prequel to the first Cube. We didn't get a Cube 3, so we don't see where the Izon Corporation is going with this thing, or what government ties they have, why they're using the military, like what's happening. So we don't have any more Cube films to go after this, because what really this feels like is a bridge between a first one and a third one. But where do you go with a Tesseract as your cube? Where like beyond that, it's speculative. I'm not 100% sure. How do you improve upon that? How do you make it better when you've gone from steampunky to a Tesseract to futuristic tech to make it even more so? I don't know where you'll maybe combine the two. I'm not 100% sure, but we never did get that third one, but we did get a prequel, which went back to the roots. So that was just my kind of thing on that. I wish they'd done a little bit more. I wanted more, which is a sign of a good movie overall. That's really, really what I dug. I dug because it asked me, aliens. Yes, Runnella's name. Aliens would be interesting. Bring something else in, And I think they tried to do that with Cube Zero, because in Cube Zero, they're putting people in there and it's kind of a punishment. And then at the end, if anybody survives, they make it to this final platform, and then the operator asks them, do you believe in God? And then after all they've been through and surviving the cube and all the traps and seeing everybody die gruesomely, they finally make it through, and then they ask them, do you believe in God? And we don't know what I think, the question, what if the one guy we see make it to, he makes it to the end and says, do you believe, and the guy says, do you believe in God? And he says, no, obviously, after all he's been through, and then they just incinerate him. So maybe they're doing some kind of testing. I'm not 100% sure. Jinju says, cubes with movie monsters. They already did that. It was called Cabin in the Woods. And then they let them all out at the same time. One of my favorite horror movie scenes. But yeah, I wish there was more to this. I wanted more. I want a Cube 3. I want a conclusion to the trilogy, and I want to know what's going on with the Izon Corporation. I want more story. It just kind of left you hanging. It felt like a bridge between one and a third one, but instead we got a prequel, which went back and tried to do the stuff they did in the first one. So, in that acid scene where the guy thinks it's water and he drinks it and just, that was just gruesome. That was up there on par with the Julian Richings one. If those of you who don't know, Julian Richings is a character actor, very, very gaunt, pale character actor. He played Death on Supernatural, but you've probably seen him everywhere. He's done a ton of stuff. Typically plays, creepy characters like that. And Julian Richings is the one that was struck. He was bald, and he was struck with the razor wire and split into cubes, and just it fell apart into cubes. And basically, that's what that tried to do. Is Cube Zero just went back to that. It's just like, let's do it really gruesome. And the first kill in that is a guy who gets sprayed with the substance that he thinks is water, and it's not. It's acid, and he melts from the inside, which is gross. It was really gross. There were some gross shots in there. Like when they do the shot with a camera where they basically went up, they want to do a close up, but they got the camera up underneath him where it's like looking up at his arm, and then you see like the whole section of his arm just slide off. It's so nasty. It's so disgusting. Yes, Travis Brown. Julian Richings was also in Kingdom Hospital. Yes, he was. Hey, Surf, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. Always a pleasure to have you. No, it's okay. You're not late. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. Tonight, it's just me. Just me running the show. So hopefully I am doing okay. Hopefully y'all are having a good time and enjoying yourselves. I'm doing the best that the best I can with what we got. And sometimes it just works out this way. Extra J is in the house. Good to see Extra J. By the way, Surf is another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much for the support, Surf. We do appreciate it. And of course, Extra J, I see you. And Sir Little Wolf is in the house. Rue to you. Good to see you, Sir Little Wolf. Thank you so much for being here. As Jinju says, diced long pig. Yummy. Yeah, they cubed his ass in Cube, which is funny because the razor wire hits him. It's like a razor wire fence, and it goes thunk, and then all the cube, then it cubes him, which is hilarious. Apropos is what they would say. Surf says, just you. Hope you apologize to the audience. I did many times. The question is, will they accept it? And thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. It's just you're doing amazing, my friend. Oh, thank you so much. Extra J says, does the melt compare to Street Trash? The acid melt, that one, no. Street Trash was particularly gruesome. Those meltings were just like, bleh, and it was just like fluid and gore and bleh, going all over the place. Whereas in this one, it was more he fell apart. His cells lost their cohesion. And he began to just fall apart, and like the skin sloughed off, and the meat was falling off his bones, and it was it was just a slow acid melt. And plus, it was from the inside too, because he ingested the substance, thinking that it was water, and it was not. It was not water, so it was particularly nasty. But yeah, but in this particular one, I'm curious. For those who have seen Cube 2 Hypercube, there, like I mentioned before, there is an alternate ending. And the alternate ending provided more context to the operative, more context to what was going on, to what the mission was and what the intention was. And Sir Little Wolf says, I have to head out to do side work for a few hours. Have a good one, Sir Little Wolf. Thank you for popping in, saying hi. And so I'm curious, and I want to ask y'all, do y'all like the more truncated ending on the original, or would you have preferred the alternate ending? And if you haven't seen that alternate ending is available on YouTube. Just look up Cube 2 Hypercube alternate ending, and you can see all the additional dialogue and everything that was going on aside from the very, very quick, I'm here, I've succeeded, thank you very much, here's the package, pop, and then she's done. So, what about the Melting in RoboCop? Melting in RoboCop was the guy who gets hit with the nuclear waste or the toxic waste. That was on kin with Street Trash. That was definitely a Street Trash style melting. This one was just a little bit more graphic because it essentially showed parts of his body as his skin and his tissue and everything was sloughing off. So you like the muscle and the tendons and everything, and then of course it's just gruesome. Just absolutely gruesome. And it starts like on his hand when he suddenly he's like, oh, my hand itches, and then he ends up pulling away like all the skin on the top of his hand, which is really gross. So really just gnarly stuff. But this one, Cube 2 Hypercube, not that extreme. Not as extreme as Cube, not as extreme as Cube Zero. And even the scene where Garrett Davies' character in one version of his character gets decapitated, it's kind of bloodless. I mean, there's a little bit, but not nearly as hardcore as the first one or the third one. So, but definitely let me know. I want to know if you've seen Cube 2 Hypercube, if you would have preferred the alternate ending, which provided more context, or if the ambiguity played better in the original ending. Let me know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Because, Alex does need that writing material. Okay, now I've been excited to talk about this one for a while, ever since it dropped, because this is a more recent film. This one came out last year, April 16th, 2021. We're going to talk about Jakob's Wife. Let's check out the trailer.
How do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife?
You make plans for things. Life happens. I want to live a bigger life.
Anne, I am surprised that you wound up marrying Jacob. Whatever happened to the adventurous Anne?
This is so tempting. I just can't do it to Jacob. Oh!
That's odd. You've got new teeth coming in.
What?
Anne.
Oh, good, you're home. Get changed. I'd like to go out.
40 years I've known this woman. Every day the same. Now, I don't know who I'm coming home to.
How much of that could I get?
You want the blood?
I feel more alive than I have in years.
Hey, Mrs. Fetter, you all right? Mrs. Fetter?
It wasn't me.
Of course it was you!
Why didn't you tell me when this first happened?
I felt ashamed.
As you should.
Husbands, love your wife. He who loves his wife loves himself.
So effed up!
That looks heavy.
I want to make my own decisions from now on.
You ever see something you couldn't explain, Sheriff?
You don't know how to fight for me because you've never done it.
Give me the strength to save her soul!
We need to finish this.
How you gonna write this one up, Deputy?
Domestic dispute. Non-violent.
Oh, this one was so good. I'm glad I finally get to chat about it. But yes, directed by Travis Stevens and written by Kathy Charles, Mark Steensland, and Travis Stevens, starring the legendary Barbara Crampton, Larry Fessenden, and Bonnie Aarons. This is an intriguing. I dig this one. The story follows a. It wasn't me. Of course, it was you. The story follows the Barbara Crampton's character, who is the wife of a church minister and very much a church mouse. Has pretty much given up her life, given up her dreams, given up everything, and she's the doting wife of the local minister, and really doesn't have an identity of her own, doesn't have herself, and until a chance meeting with an old flame the guy that got away winds up getting her bitten by a vampire. And as she goes through this, she begins to change into a creature of the night. She finds her power. She kind of finds her inner power, finds herself, and revels in what her newfound strength and what she's become, and takes control of her life in the face of pretty much a world that doesn't want her to have it. And this one was really, really interesting. And while I get that just based upon that summary, I get why people might be put off by it, because there's definitely a tone of there's the tone of female empowerment in it, but it's supposed to be a vampire movie. So there is, and absolutely, Elizabeth, yeah, definitely check this movie out. And it has the big tone of female empowerment in it, and regaining one's identity, regaining one's strength from those who have ostensibly taken it from you. Now, the reason I was so excited to talk about this particular movie is because recently, especially online, where all the trolls exist and everything, there has been some pushback as to what is referred to as woke culture. And there's been a lot of, I guess, naysayers or people that really can't stand this idea or the concept that woke culture is infecting cinema. Now, that makes no sense to me. What's going on in the culture and whatever is going on in society can't infect a genre. Art imitates life. We take stories from reality and we replay as actors, as filmmakers, as directors, as writers. We take what's going on in reality and we reshape it, we remix it, we typically embellish it a little bit, and we put it on the screen. The intention is to see a story, is to enjoy a story that's well performed, well written, and allows you to identify with its characters and to vicariously feel what they feel, to experience things and kind of internalize things that you normally wouldn't have. And the big thing about this one, and what's epic about it's Barbara Crampton, legendary actress, was New York bred, and got her start in New York theater with King Lear before she appeared in her first movie. And she did some soap operas work until she got her first movie, which was Brian De Palma's Body Double. Well, that's where she kind of solidified herself as kind of like the erotic thrillers, the star of erotic thrillers. And then she went on, but it was horror that really grabbed her when, she got her shots in Reanimator and, of course, Killbots. It's called Chopping Mall, and, of course, From Beyond. But Barbara Crampton is a legendary actress who's been going strong. And I love this one for two reasons. One, she helped to produce it. She produced the movie. And the reason that she wanted to get behind it was because the story that is being told about her character in this mirrors her experiences in the film industry. Whereas we get the sense of it. She's a legend. We consider her a legend, but we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. And that sometimes in this industry, as being just the talent and having directors over you and writers over you and producers over you and executive producers over you, sometimes, especially when you're marketing a film, you really don't have your voice. And this is about a person finding the power to get their voice back, to take it back, and how everybody around them reacts to them taking their power back. Because it doesn't really become about reacting to her becoming a vampire. It becomes about she's different now. She's changed. She's not the woman I married. She's not the person who was the person you married? Quiet, timid, you talked over them, they never talked back. You always got your breakfast when you wanted it, and they never really had anything for themselves. Now all of a sudden they want to take back their lives and you don't like it. Is it because she's a vampire? Or is it because all of a sudden she's not the, who you anticipate? She's not the, the little wife that you can domineer over. So it brings this up. And a lot of people have pushed back and, kind of spoke about it. They don't like this idea of woke culture, but that's what horror does. It takes what's going on, puts it on the screen, and asks questions and forces the audience to deal with things that they normally don't want to deal with. That's what the horror genre does. And so we've taken the idea. So what they've brilliantly done and and Barbara Crampton was right to grab this and to produce it and make sure this movie happens. the big thing about this was telling a story about a woman reclaiming her voice. She just happens to find the power to do it because she becomes one of the undead, because she becomes a vampire. And then it turns out that the vampire, well, I don't want to spoil that because there is a moratorium on this one. I don't want to spoil that one, but this is the big moment. I think this is what it's Jasper E., another one of our amazing patrons. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, bud. But this was the big thing about this one. Barbara Crampton has been around since the 80s. And more often than not in the past 10 years, I have seen her pop up in movies. She'll do and starring Barbara Crampton, with Barbara Crampton and Barbara Crampton. She gets to come up, she plays one particular role, and then she's gone. Either her character dies or her character is just there to kind of drive the plot along. She was in You're Next. She was the mom who winds up getting killed. She was in a Lovecraftian movie where she played kind of like the plot jeep, where she was pushing the story along. And it's cool and everything, and it always bothers me when really talented legendary actors kind of like the way that they're kind of put out to pasture is they wind up doing cameos. They show up to give movies credibility. And you start seeing them pop up and be like, hey, there I am. Oh, wow, it's like that. And then they're just there. It's kind of like when they dropped Tony Todd in the Scream TV series, in the third season of Scream TV series. So you could have this Ghostface versus Candyman fight because Tony Todd was dropped in there. He played this guy who ran this old junkyard, and he was a veteran, and he was missing a hand and had a hook. So, and then he was only in there for like an episode. And then there's the big obligatory Candyman versus Ghostface fight, and then it was over. That was it. I understand that's the way it works, and that's how it goes down. But occasionally you like to see these actors shine again. And this was Barbara Crampton's, an opportunity for her to blow people out of the water. The woman has got talent. She is phenomenal in this. Nuanced performance that really grasps everything that's going on, or everything that's going on with her character. I like the fact that she got to shine. This was a good moment for her, a big moment for her to finally step out and be like, she can carry a movie easily. Not to mention the actors around her. Larry Fessenden is very, very effective. Larry Fessenden, people probably remember him or recognize the name. He's been producing stuff for a long time. We spoke about his very first movie, Wendigo, a few weeks back on the podcast. And that one he wrote, directed, and produced. And he had a small little bit in it. I think he was like one of the locals who was in the background. But he's done that. He helps to produce. He started out as a producer, and then as a writer and director, was making horror films, and then kind of segued into acting. And in this way, he did the same thing. Well, I think the first thing I ever saw him in was the Nick D'Amici horror film Mulberry Street, where he played a guy who when the rat people are running all over the place, he locked somebody, he was running off the street. He locks himself behind a gate, and this guy comes along and says, hey, man, let me in. And the Larry Fessenden was like, fuck you, and then runs off. So, but he played little bits like that. But he is so good in this role as her husband, as the minister, who is torn between his faith and what his wife has become, and supporting her and being with her, and of course his duty as the fighter, as like the fighter of evil and stuff. So I dug this one. It was fantastic to see Barbara really get a moment to shine, to really put out there what she's capable of, and to do it in classic fashion as a horror movie where she turns into a nasty vampire. I'm not going to give away the twist on this and where it goes, because there's a big thing at the end that's revealed in this that asks another question about the whole idea of getting your identity back. And I don't want to spoil that. You have to watch it because it comes up in the third act, and it's pretty big. I haven't seen a lot of vampire movies that are pushed towards women, but this one, or a lot of horror movies that are directly pushed towards women. I've seen a lot of female-centric vampire films, a lot of women-centric vampire, or women-centric horror movies like The Descent. It was very woman-centric, and I've seen a lot of these, but never one that this one was made for ladies to watch, and I like that. I dug it. This, the horror takes all forms, and that's what I dug about this. Plus, it drops some pretty heavy questions in there, like what would you do in this situation? How do you feel about this idea? Like, is it overblown? Is it toxic? It really brings it up, and I like the narrative here. Not to mention that Barbara Crampton experienced much of what we're talking about as she was coming up to the film industry. You can imagine. She's pretty much began her career with Brian De Palma in neo-noir erotic thrillers, and this is what she's kind of known for. Given her performances in From Beyond, her performance in Reanimator, and of course her performance in Chopping Mall. But she fought through that, which goes to speak to her strength as an actress and just her character. And Elizabeth Sylvester says, I agree she has talent. I noticed that she would be the vampire, her, and kill people, but when her husband came in the room, her normal self would see through. Yeah, she's really, really good at this. It's really, really well done. And I enjoyed watching her see her moment. And not to mention, a topical vampire story was interesting. I think it's a new way to take it, because vampire stories, vampire movies, vampires are monsters. You're expecting blood, violence, and all kinds of gore and stuff. But it's a monster movie. It's about heroes overcoming monsters, going all the way back to Dracula. And the question is, what do people think of that? There's not much, I can't give too much away because I don't want to spoil it. The film's only been out a year. But I'm really, really curious what people think about this kind of storytelling, when the classic monster is utilized to tell a story that's not typically done. Because vampires, they have their there's the idea of what a vampire is. The vampire itself is a metaphor for the aristocracy, for narcissism. None of that plays here, but they don't change it, which is really, really cool. Think of this one along the lines of doing something different like Midnight Mass did. Midnight Mass really played to that trope and took it in another direction. I thought was brilliant. This one does the same thing, just on a smaller scale. Midnight Mass was massive. And of course, Mike Dougherty is absolutely amazing. But I enjoyed this one. I really liked it. Character driven and a fun story that asks some interesting questions. Question is, what do you think of these things? A topical vampire story, not typically what you would expect, with some very, very decent practical effects. I don't think I noticed any CGI in this one. There was everything is practical. The blood effects, the gore effects, people getting ripped apart, all that completely practical. And I think that was also one of the things that really solidified it for me. Ronan L. Sims, if I remember correctly, The Addiction did something similar. Vampires is a heroine analogy. Yes, it did with she's one of my favorite actresses. She was in Lily. Dang it. That was The Addiction was 1995. That was Lily Taylor. Oh, I love her so much. Lily Taylor is amazing. I think it was Lily Taylor, Christopher Walken, but Lily Taylor is absolutely amazing. And I've loved her ever since she's been working a long time, but I first saw her in an X-Files episode where she played the blind woman who could see through through her father's eyes, and then caught her in The Haunting with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson, and I love Lily Taylor. I think one of her best performances was in Hemlock Grove, which is currently on Netflix. She played the mother to the primary vampire, or primary werewolf character in that. But I love her so much, and I thought that she was fantastic in the Addiction, and then tried to do something different, where it was an allegory for something different. And I think there was only Lovers Left Alive, which was the Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston. Only Lovers Left Alive, which came out in 2013, which was about vampires kind of making their way through reality. I think David Bowie had one as well that I can't remember the name of, where he and his girl played vampires kind of, moving through time. I can't remember the name of it. Remind me in the live chat if you remember the name of that, of the David Bowie vampire flick. So very, very interesting stuff. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think. I wanted to ask you, given the topical nature of Jacob's Wife, given how they really, and it's not subtle, given that, I want to kind of ask y'all, do y'all prefer in your monster movies, in vampire, whether it's vampires or it's werewolves or it's Frankenstein's monster or whatever, in your monster movies, do you prefer a focus being on story and character to drive the entire film, or do you watch monster movies for the blood, the gore, and the violence? Because they're monster movies. Thank you very much. It was The Hunger, 1983. So, but what do you prefer? In your monster movies or in your vampire movies, do you prefer the story and character driving everything, or do you prefer blood and violence? I ask this because when watching this, I juxtaposed it against 30 Days of Night. 30 Days of Night was an adaptation of a graphic novel. And in 30 Days of Night, in the graphic novel itself, or in the comic series itself, the two main characters, Stella and Eben, were not at odds with one another. One of the things that pushes them through that story to be the epic survivors is that they're very much in love. They have a very supporting relationship, and Eben would do anything for Stella. And that's what drives him. His love for her is what drives him to, become a vampire so he can fight off the bad guys at the end. But in the remake, in the adaptation, when they brought 30 Days of Night, well, I enjoyed the movie. I loved the movie, and I thought it was great. There was the added subplot, the element that they were on the verge of divorce. And so then the question becomes, even at this moment where you are on the verge, where your relationship is on the verge of collapse, can you recognize that you still love each other and put all the tertiary nonsense, all the arbitrary bullshit aside and do something for those that you love? What do you do in the situation? I didn't think that was necessary. The town banding together to fight vampires was a fantastic story. We don't need additional plot points. We don't need to see that Stella and Eben have this drama between them to ramp up the stakes. Because if we see them in love, we see them supporting each other, we see that they're an excellent team, and then he has to turn around and make the sacrifice to save her life, that's more poignant. But divorce is a major thing. It hits people where they live. It's difficult. It's tragic. Sometimes people never get over it. So why the necessary? Why make it a little bit more topical so that people can attach to it more? And it's a narrative trope, and I know the narrative reasons why they would do it, but I don't think it's necessary. Just like monster movies, story and character, or blood and violence. It is a monster movie after all. Do we need more context? Do we need more subtext? Do we need more subplots? Or is it the subtext and the subplots that drive the film home and allow us to enjoy the movie more? Definitely let me know in the comments below, here in the live chat, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Going through this here, let me see here. Travis Brown says, I like the Fly remake because of the characters and the transformation with the gross out effects. Yes, Cronenberg's Fly was absolutely stellar. Of course, Ian, I almost called him Ian Malcolm. Jeff Goldblum was amazing in that. So was Gina Davis. Absolutely love that one. The sequel was kind of disgusting as well. Ronan Ellis says, a little bit of column A, a little from column B. A little bit, yep. Maybe a little of both. Totalitarian regime sides with the story and character. That's what drives it. And then Angel Rivera says, combination of both story and characters and blood and violence. And I guarantee you will get both in Jacob's Wife. You'll get good, strong story, good, strong characters, and lots of blood and violence. Brendan Riley is very much of both. Raven Dark says, I hated that movie. Probably 30 Days of Night. Probably hated that one. The comic was good. It really, really was. I enjoyed it. Christopher says, I prefer story and Christopher Lee and his crew, or really bad B-movie actors. Awesome. Rodin LSC says, and column C, gratuitous TNA. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Brendan Riley says, roger that, rodent. Definitely. Oh, thank you so much, Sketch Scratcher, for hitting that like button and for smashing that like button. I do appreciate it. Smashed and tickled. So, yes. Oh, and thank you very much. Oh, yes. Oh, if you get an opportunity, please smash that like button. It really helps us with the algorithm. I really appreciate that. So, it is time for the trivia question. Trivia question time. Man, we've been going that, well, dang. An hour 42 in? Wow, I think I've kind of holding my own. Wow. Extra J says I can take one or the other, or a combination if it's done well. Got to measure it out. That comes down to the writer. That comes down to what the writer's trying to convey and making sure that that the script they've punched out doesn't put the director in the position where they have to leave too much out because they're like, well, I'd love to be able to shoot this, but we can't make it happen. Good, solid knowledge, or good, talented writers, good knowledge writers who are knowledgeable of the industry can punch out a script that they know can get shot. That's the point. Writing to a budget and writing so you know it'll get made. Because it always hurts when you write something amazing and they unfortunately can't get to it or ends up on the cutting room floor. So, but yes, it is trivia time. It is trivia time. And this one is a tough one. But because it's a tough one, I am going to give away a brand new shirt that I just designed, which is our horror icon shirt. It is currently on Teespring. If you want to jump over to the link is in the description. You can check out what the horror icon shirt looks like. I'm giving this as a brand new shirt that I just created, and I think it's fun and just something really, really simple, and I wanted to get one out there. So we're giving away to the winner of this trivia question a new Week in Horror icon shirt. So be sure to check that out if you get the opportunity. I'm going to let you go to Teespring and check that out, but you're going to win one if you answer this trivia question correctly. Let me actually make sure I pull up. Let me make sure I pull up my damn live feed. Oh, I got to turn the volume down. That would be helpful. There we go. And make sure I'm on live chat so I can see. There we go. Oh, Skitch Crasher, thank you so much. All we need is jail. Who needs hosts? I miss the guys, though. I miss them terribly because they pick up the slack. Oh, God420's in the house. Good to see you, God420, another one of our amazing patrons. I do appreciate you being here, but thank you so much. All right, so here we go. I wrote another last name. Yep, I appreciate that. Yep, thank you. Okay, here we go. Christopher Music Channel says, trivia question, Rosanna, what was it? Trivia question, Rosanna Dana. Close. But here we go. So, for a Week in Horror official horror icon shirt, the new shirt that I just designed is up on Teespring. Here is your trivia question. And I've got the live chat up. Only one Jason hockey mask managed to survive 3 entire Friday the 13th productions, part 3, 4, and 5. Who initially owned and subsequently sold this holy grail of Friday props? Who was the owner of the holy grail of Friday the 13th props, the Jason mask that survived 3 Friday the 13th productions? What was this person's name? Who owned that mask? This is a tough one. So stretch out those Google fingers and get them working. The first person to get the answer in the live chat wins a horror icon shirt. Who's got it? I think I can hear those keys just clicking all the way into my studio. People flipping out. People going, I have no idea who it is. Who is it? Who owned the Jason hockey mask that survived 3 films, 3 productions, part 3, 4, and 5? Who owned and unfortunately sold it to a fan? Who owned that mask? Chris Durham says the mask. Jim Carrey. Boom! Angel Rivera has got it. I'll make sure. I'll double check that. Yep, Angel Rivera has got it. It was David Warlock. Oh, congratulations, Angel Rivera. Let me write that down real quick. Angel Rivera with the excellent guest, and this is Week in Horror icon shirt. Angel Rivera. I will get that printed and shipped out to you. Congratulations. All right. So, David Warlock is the one who owned that. And it's an interesting story behind that. So, apparently, in Friday the 13th Part 3, there were 2 masks that they used. There were 2 hockey masks they used. There was the one that they called the hero mask. And the hero mask was the one that showed up in all of the primary shots. The one that was the acting one. Then there was the stunt mask. And the stunt mask is the one where Jason takes all the hits, where he got hit in the head with the machete, where you have the hit in the head with the machete, and you see the crack in it. So all the things he did to it, that was the stunt mask. And so the hero mask did not survive, but the stunt mask did. And the stunt mask survived 3, was picked up for the production of 4, and was used throughout that one, and then turned around and was picked up for the production of 5. And David Warlock is who played Jason, or the Jason, amateur, or the Jason imposter in 5, and he picked up the mask and kept it for I think a very long time before he wound up selling it to a fan. So David Warlock, and David Warlock is the one who grabbed that, and he's also known as the guy who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2. So David Warlock, the guy who got the mask and then sold it. I never would have sold that thing. So congratulations to Angel Rivera for picking up a horror icon shirt. I can't wait to get that out to you because I'm kind of proud of those. It was a simple design, kind of like spur of the moment, and I really liked it. So I hope that you like it as well. I see that Commander Darklight jumped in, one of our initial patrons. Thank you so much for being here, Commander Darklight. I'm glad that you popped in to say hi. Thank you so much. And I think I saw, what is this? Oh, rodent. That's cute. Very, very cute. Extra J says, totes malotes. So expect it. I wanted to make the trivia questions a little bit tougher because the answers would come in really quick. I wanted people to have to like look for it. And so I will be increasing the difficulty of the trivia questions as we go along. Sketchrasher says, well, good timing. I got to go to a Legion meeting. Ta-ta. Take it easy, Sketchrasher. Thank you so much for being here, bud. Really do appreciate it. All right. And that is going to bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. I truly hope you enjoyed the show as we kind of like put up with just me being here. But don't worry, we're going to be back next week, because join us next week when we look back at the creepy Conjuring franchise entry, The Curse of La Llorona, the original Romero masterpiece, Dawn of the Dead, Slithering Terror in Rattlers, and the Russian alien horror, Sputnik. We'd like to send a special shout out to all of our amazing patrons who continue to help us make Week in Horror the incredible success it has become. Thank you all so very much. You can see your names down there in the banner. You guys make this show happen, and we love you for it. Be sure to stop by Joshua Olsen's store, badsamurai.store. He does all of our amazing artwork for the show, and his designs are incredible. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on the socials, where you'll get the daily splatter right to your feeds, and at Digital Darkness, our new gaming channel hosted by Alien X Gaming. Hopefully we'll have the Quarry on there soon. Please comment, like, subscribe, and smash that bell as if you're somebody's #1 fan for all the latest updates from the show. All those interactions really help us with the dreaded algorithm. That thing sucks. Not unlike a vampire. And lastly, if you love what we do here and would like and are able to support the production, you can through our Patreon. We have tiers as low as $1 a month. That is cheaper than a Walmart bin UA Bowl film. Higher tiers get early special After Dark access, hang out with us and play the trivia game, bonus content, monthly horror movies. You can even join us as a special guest judge at our Bloodbath debates every single month. But if Patreon is not your particular modus operandi, you can always support us directly through our PayPal. Links to all of this, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description below. As always, sharing the show with all the fans in your local horror community is the best way to help us further our goals of global horror domination. Thank you all so much for being the greatest audience that a podcast could ever have. I am JL, and the rest of the guys all give you their best from wherever they are, wherever they're dealing with. We love you all so much. We will see you all next week. And as always, stay scared.